Hi, today we will see what is admission controllers in Kubernetes. So first let's recap. In a Kubernetes cluster, as we know, control plane and worker nodes. Whereas a control plane has API server, controller manager and etcd, which is for the key value store and scheduler, and as well as a cloud provider API. Whereas as we know, every node will have a kubelet and a kubeproxy for the network, right? So here if you look at the controller manager, right? So this controller manager, so here look at the arrow marks. Whenever you say kubectl apply deployment or create deployment, create a pod or create a config map or anything, right? This kubelet will call, see this arrow mark, will talk to API server always, and API server will processes, and next it will call the controller manager. So basically this controller is a process which is along with the API server, right? So what it does, this controller manager, it has internally number of controllers, say like a node controller, job controller, endpoint controller, service account, token control. So there are many controller, and along with that cloud controller manager as well for the cloud related. So today's topic is admission controller. So all the admission controllers are comes under this particular category, which is a controller manager. So let's see the next slide. Okay, first of all we need to understand what is admission controller and how it works, right? So basically whenever you say kubectl apply -f deployment some file, so what it will does is, deployment is nothing but inside there will be a pod and you will be specifying a replicas, right? And all the its configuration, and whenever you apply, it will attach a default service account. First an authentication phase will happen because you are doing it from a kubelet. So whether this kubelet call is authorized or not, this API will check, right? And it will check authentication, whether it's a authentication person, whether he will be able to authorize to do the deployments and all, like by using RBAC, right? So we will see the RBAC in a different session, but point is here, the whoever the user, say here the user is a John is doing a deployment, whether John has a deployment rights to deploy in a Kubernetes cluster. Then once authentication and authorization happens, the next stage is, before storing into the etcd database, admission controllers will kick in. So then admission controller will kick in, and which will basically intercept, which will comes into the picture, and which will does the validation and whatever the modification. That's how the exactly admission controller will appear in the big picture. So let's go into the next. Say if you do the kubectl apply -f deployment, right? As we said, authentication, authorization. Then after that, this admission controller will comes into the picture. This admission controller will take care of the many aspects, resource management or security, governance, or many thing it will control. It will basically it will adds the logic, and then finally it will store. That's how it's once again it's a high level picture. So now we will see what is admission controller, right? Admission controller is nothing but a set of extensions or a piece of code that will intercept is nothing but it will block, it will basically it will stop, or it will basically process, it will validate, it will modify, right? So it will modify the request. What is the request? API request. Say kubectl get kubectl apply -f, something like that, anything, modify operation. And for the governs operation, it will governs. It will basically, it's just looks like a gatekeeper before the etcd database. What happens is once the kubeAPI server requests are processing before persisting into the etcd, that's the gatekeeper. Then another one is admission controllers are compiled with the kubeAPI server binaries. So whatever the API server, it's compiled along with it. So wherever the API server exists, these admission controllers are there, because API server is the only guy which is talking to the etcd, not others. So that's why it's along with it. Next is admission controller will have two different phases. One is a mutating phase, second one is a validating phase. So we will see this mutating and validating phase in upcoming slides, but for now just note down these are the two phases. Next is during this admission controller phase, if any of the controller rejects, then the request will be rejected and it will be processed with error. Say I am doing kubectl apply f some deployment, right, and that deployment is not complying with some security standards you define in admission controller, it will simply reject with some predefined error. Why it's error, right? Say in a production namespace I am trying to deploy one pod. Say if Kubernetes admin is defined some rules, some admission controllers, then it will give me an error. That's what it will reject with error. The next is admission controllers can work on modify operations only. That means create, delete, modify objects only. That means not on the get. Just remember, for the get, that means the read objects, there is no limitation of this admission controller. Only it will work on the create, delete and modify, right? Let's get into the next one. Yeah, so when we talk about the admission controllers, Kubernetes, whenever you install a Kubernetes cluster by using a kubeadm, by default means it's a built-in, there are admission controllers. There are various, right? So basically if you look at the Kubernetes documentation here, right, just go to the Kubernetes documentation and just search for the admission controller, right? Here there is a list, right? Always admit, always deny, always pull images, create certificates. So there are many bunch of. So what exactly this? So let's look into this. Always pull images, certificate approval, certificate signing. So certificate subject, default ingress class, default storage class, default toleration, default deny. So and there is the image policy webhook, limit part, so limit ranger, mutating, and namespace auto provision, namespace exist. So these are the pod security policies, right? Priority, resource quota, runtime class, security context, service account, storage, object in protection, validating. So these are the built-in controller list. These are the defined by the Kubernetes. For each and every controller has some meaning. Say for example namespace auto provision. Say for example I want to deploy Nginx pod in the namespace, say Singapore, but Singapore namespace doesn't have, right? So in that case what it will throw, the namespace does not exist, right? So but if you enable this particular admission controller namespace auto provision, it will automatically create a namespace even though it's not exist. That's a one example. Say runtime class, you can define a class, you can define a resource quota with this, you can define a default service account, right? So you can define a default service account and assign some RBAC and then add it as admission controller, so that whenever you try to create a pod, always that service account will be applied. Just to idea. So among all of these admission controller, there are webhooks. So if you look at here, image policy webhook, mutating, validating. These are ending with the webhook. Just notice among, right? So these are the admission controllers are the special type. I would say these are the customizable admission controllers, where it has a suffix is a webhook, that nothing but it has a not only an admission controller, but also it will allow you to define a customized controller, right? So each and every admission controller will have a purpose. Say here mutating admission webview and validating admission webview. So these are the two major phases of admission controller, whereas image policy webhook also offers to customize your admission controller. So you can deploy your own apart from all this built-in. So let's get into the next one. Now whenever you do the kubectl apply some deployment, right, what happens is internally kubectl apply f nothing but there is a kube API call, that nothing but API call with the post with some body of this deployment. That will be taken care by API handler. Then API handler will take care of authentication and authorization both. So authentication is nothing but whoever is running a kubectl, whether it's authenticated or not, maybe it's a certificate and all, and authorized, the whoever is a user basically using a kube context, right, that guy is basically authorized or not, that will check. Then first stage is mutating admission controller will kick in. Mutable, say whenever you watch the TV, you can mute the voice, then you can unmute. So whenever you want, you can mute it, unmute it. Similarly, an admission controller, what it will do, mutating admission controller, what it will does is, if you define a customized mutating admission controller, that will do the modifications before storing into the etcd. That's what it does. Then after that, here webhook is nothing but which can be attachable to anything, right, which is called hook. So mutating webhook means whatever you define a webhook, which will mutates, which will modifies with the specific. So here just note down request and response, right? So in this flow basically object schema validates, then after that validation webhook validating admission controller will kicks in, that also will does the request and response with the webhook. So whenever it reaches to this stage, it will raises a request with webhook and gets a responses, and accordingly if this response is basically blocks you, means it won't allow you to do that, means you have a something is in this deployment and that is not as per the defined security, maybe it passes this stage, but this stage it may fail. So any stage if it fails, then automatically it won't store in a etcd database. This is a visual representation of the life cycle, how the calls will happen. So we will dig into the more details in the further slide, right? Okay, now the Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is basically intent based API. So what is intent based? Basically, if there is a one API, right, same local host, you exposed one API in some local host with some API, right? Say you wanted to execute, what you will do? You will execute by using a curl and then that API, and you will pass the request body, right? So that API will execute and that API will call. That's typical action based API, right? So if you miss anything in that body, then it will block, right? Similarly, that's action based. But in the Kubernetes, it's an intent based API. Means what you will do in the Kubernetes, you will define the desired stage. If you look at the any deployment, right, in the deployment.yaml file, any deployment you take, in the deployment you will specify what you want. I want a one replica. I want a image name should be some Nginx. I want the label should be this one. I want the, so you will specify in the deployment YAML and just kubectl apply. That means Just you are specifying what is your desired stage, what you intended to do. That's it only. But internally what happens, you don't know. What happens internally, it will be entire thing will be taken care by the Kubernetes engine, right? That will make a call to the 443 secure call and authentication, authorization, everything will be taken care internally, and finally it will create and give you the ready-made. That's what the intent based API. It's not an action based. Just keep that in mind before getting into the admission controller. Next, maybe you can ask, it looks like admission controllers will give you the security and all, right? What are the problems with the RBAC? Maybe if you know the RBAC also give you the security features, right? Like role based access control, who does what on a what resources, right? So if you look at the intent based Kubernetes RBAC, right? In the RBAC, what you do is user you will define, user or service account. Here users are multiple users in my team. Say these are my team members. One guy is admin, so I will give you all, whereas Alison only I will give an access to create pods only. That's it. He won't be able to delete. So Betty can delete pod 2, say something like that. I can define. These are the only limited set of operations I can do with the RBAC, right? I can't do more than this, right? So I can define actions. So what actions? Create, delete, apply, get, describe. That's it, right? But if you limit these options, these users can do more than the what we allowed in the RBAC. What it is here? What happens is, this is just a imaginary table. What the users can do, they can specify more replicas, they can specify any label, these guys, they can specify health, liveness. There are many security settings in the deployment YAML, right? Any YAML level they can specify, and they can leverage these actions, right? So this is not allowed in the RBAC. Means RBAC has a certain set of capabilities to allow and perform the operations for access control point of view, right? So I hope this is clear. Basically what is the fictitious action based, right? So let's move to the further, so that we will understand further. So now, why admission controller, right? Here, as I said in the previous slide, RBAC, role based access control, handles only access control. Who can do what on the what resources, right? Whereas it's limited, as I explained in the previous slide, it's a limited access control because intent based API. Because intention could be anything. In that API I can specify anything. I can specify privilege equal to true. I can specify any kind of a setting and just apply. Because if you look at this here previous slide, right, right, so basically here, just a sec, here, right, here if I say specify Betty can delete on the anything, I just given a just delete operation only. I can give a only create operation only, but I don't know what he is doing in the create. Maybe he can specify anything in the YAML because it's intent based, right? So maybe engine builders. That's what the admission controllers gives you far behind than RBAC. That's what the admission controllers are way ahead, or maybe in terms of the security features, it is a good, not only security, governance and configuration management, etc. Right? So I hope this will give you the clear picture between the differences between the RBAC and admission control, right? Then what are the features, right? Now first one is improved security by using admission controller. Yes, you can mandate a security baseline. What are the mandatory? Say in my company, whoever runs the pods, that should not be root, should not be privileged. So non-privileged and non-root specific pods. So In that way I can set a baseline, or you can allow from a specific image repository. I want to allow from docker.io / some xyz repository, that's a company's. Only you can whitelist. It will deny from all other unknown repositories. So that way you can just improve your security. And also you can reject the deployments if it does not meet security standards, right? In the initial example, kubectl apply if deployment 1.yaml, you can define anything and just simply apply, right? So you can just define and meet some security standards, right? Specific to the pod level or anything. Yeah. Next is easy governance. So easy governance point of view, you can enforce, say you have a 50 microservices, and every microservice, every service pod should have some labels, some annotations according to the your organizational requirement, right? So an app equal to some xyz, so such kind of labels you can enforce. If it is missing, you can just throw an error that this pod doesn't have an app equal to some label, something. Say for one pod you have added some labels, one for Kubernetes and one for Prometheus monitoring, one for some query reporting point of view, one for operational, etc., right? And some annotations is for some specific functionalities, etc., and some resource limits. So these things you can just enforce so that it will be for the well governance. Right. And the last is a configuration and deployment. So what is this basically? In your Kubernetes deployments resources, you can basically prevent misconfigurations. What are the misconfigurations? One is like detecting and fixing the images without semantic tags. Say basically you were just trying to deploy some images with some tags. So I wanted to deploy with proper taggings, or I wanted to basically ensure a reasonable labels to add it to the pads, as just now as explained. And another one is adding a resource limit. Basically you can specify the resource limit and validate as well a resource limit, and also you can enforce a latest tag for the production. So not enforce, that means whenever is deploying say nginx latest nginx : latest, so the latest should not be allowed as per the security requirement. You always has to deploy a specific version, not the latest. Means not by using a latest. So it should have some version number, not by the latest. Latest is not recommended. So that's what these are the features you can leverage with the admission controllers. Yeah, let's go to the next slide. So basically how it will work in Kubernetes, as so far we see basically whenever you do the some kubectl apply if deployment 1.yaml, then authorization authentication will kick in there, RBAC, node level, webhooks and everything will be kicking with respect to authorization. And whereas there are pre-built custom controllers, which is admission controllers, right? We have seen in the previous slides. Those will be kick in if you enable. Along with that, these are the two different main phases. Please remember, mutating webhook and validating webhook. So in the admission controller process, you can either mutate or validate along with the pre-built one. So, and what is our job is here as a Kubernetes admin? We can define a mutating webhook so that it will modify what it will modify this deployment, and validating. Once it is modifies, it will validates whether ensures yes, it's something like you are crossing the immigration, and the immigration officer will do the one stamp, right? He has everything all good to enter into the country. Something like that, it will validate of this deployment, right? And stores in the etcd. After storing in etcd, next is scheduler will take care, and the scheduler will do the scheduling job. That's it. So that's how it will work in a high level. Now, as I said in the previous slide, there are dynamic admission controllers. What are they? Dynamic admission controller means what? It's a user defined admission controller that can modify or reject API request based on the some logic, right? Similarly, like mutating and validating. So in the mutate you will do the modification, validating you will reject the API request, right? That's what the we learn. Then second is the three different types this dynamic admission controller. One is image policy webhook, as we see in the previous slide, right? What is this image policy webhook does this is a dynamic type, mutating admission webhook also dynamic type, validating a dynamic. What is this image policy webhook? Just the name, image means Docker image, whatever the image, policy means it's a policy, webhook, right? What is a webhook here? Webhook is a standard interface, any could be anything, API service or anything, any website or any web server or anything that will listen to the API server incoming request and respond with some result, right? Say here webhook, say GitHub is a webhook. Say whenever I check in something, I wanted to do the CI/CD build, that's a webhook. So basically it will listen and just respond with some result. Here image policy webhook, a policy can be applied on the image with the webhook. Means in the descriptive terms, controls admissions for a particular container image. This is all about the image specific, right? So means you can define your own custom webhooks and define on images, only on the images. We'll see this in upcoming slide. Next one is a mutating admission webhook. What it will do, it will modify the object that is received before the persisting into the etcd. Then another one is a validating admission webhook. What it will does is it accepts or rejects. So validation means like immigration, as I said in the example, right? In the immigration, the officer will do the stamp whether to go into whether allowed to the country or rejected, something like that. So basically these are the three different types. Out of that, these two are the major with respect to admission controllers, right? And webhook is nothing but is a standard interface that is you can attach to anywhere this webhook, right? You create a one webhook and just attach to mutate, attach to the validate, both can be done, right? The next is how do I enable this admission controller, right? So basically if you provision a Kubernetes cluster with a KubeADM, and in the Kube API server level there is a option called enable admission plugins equal to, there you can specify a comma and give a whatever the admission controller you created. Say I have created say GVR webhook, some GVR policy or maybe something XYZ. So you can specify just comma and just your own. That's how you should define. And how to disable. I don't want anything, just hyphen disable admission plugin. So we will see. Yes, so I'm in a Minikube here. So like here kubectl get pods, right? Kubectl get pods all, right? So if you look at this kubectl get pods, kubectl describe pod Kube API server, and which is in the kube system namespace and -o YAML. Sorry, no, just describe pod is enough. I just did the describe, right? If you look at the kubectl describe pod, right, and in the command level, right, Kube API server level, right, there are a bunch of arguments, command line parameters are passed, right? Here there is an option to enable admission plugins. So here if you look at here, see, enable admission plugin. So by default namespace lifecycle policy, remit ranger, service account, default storage class, and default toleration some xyz. So these are the already by default is added. I did not do anything, just I minikube start and I did that, right? So here if you wanted to do, you can just go and edit this particular Kube API server YAML, which is located in Etsy, and manifest Kubernetes there, and just you modify the static YAML, right? So that you can add here. That's what this particular slide is about, right? So let's go to the next one. Now the first one is a mutating webhook configuration. So what exactly this mutating? So as I said, mutating will basically modifies basically this particular admission configuration, right? And which will kicks in the first stage, it will deploy. So for that, what you need to do? First you need to define a webhook service. Webhook service is, as I said, it's a webhook is nothing but is what? It's a one web server. It will does some job. You define that one first. Second is create a mutating webhook configuration by using a YAML on the fly. How it is so first you define a one service. The service is called a webhook server, and just a second. Yeah, so basically here webhook server is a my server, and in this namespace I have created this service, and which is running on this port, and it has a pod, some pod with some logic which is doing some validation or something, some xyz operation it's doing, right? So this is what is the full DNS here, webhook-server.webhook demo namespace, which is a service. This is just considered as a one of the my service. This is called, I am considering it as a webhook. Now what I will do is I will create a one mutating webhook configuration. Maybe if you look at the Kubernetes documentation, it is there, right? Say here webhook, mutate. So if you look at here, just search for mutating webhook configuration, right? So just you copy here, right, and just search in a Kubernetes documentation, right? So using dynamic admission controller, just click it here, right? These are the mutating admission controller. So here you can just search here, right? So you will see all the mutating admission controller. So basically here you are defining your own service. That service you are configuring here as a one webhook, which will trigger every time whenever tries to create a pod, try to create pod on a V1 API version, so that it will execute mutate path. So means what happens is whenever they are trying to create this particular operation of pod creating on a V1, it will invoke web server. What is web server? This guy it will invoke and it will execute, and accordingly it will does the modification. So that's what it's a client configuration. Client configuration means who is the client here? Client is client for this guy. This guy is how to connect. This guy is a client. Say this client requires some URL. This you can say my service is located in some XYZ Azure or GCP or somewhere else. How do I do? Under the client config service there is another property called a URL, right? So, see, I can show you that. See, clear kubectl explain, right? Mutating, maybe I can just paste mutating webhook admission control, right? Okay, maybe it's not there. So if you look at the mutating webhook configuration, you under client config you can just find it. What is a URL? Maybe I can show here mutating webhook configuration, right? Here under admission. So under say here CLINT client config, right? Client configuration, right? You see client configuration, there is a URL. So in this URL the whatever the webhook is exist. So in that way you can specify, but it's just an example for you guys to explain. And say this web server is require some CA certificate, then I am attaching a CA certificate here as well. So this is just an example like how the mutating evil works. You can define that, right? Then I have taken it from this particular URL, so it's everything is there. Now second is validating, right? Validating, as we said, it will does the validation whether it's a pass or fail, right? So first what you will be doing is, you same like a mutating web configuration, you will be creating a validating webhook configuration. So in that previous example, it's a mutating webhook configuration, just remember. And here validating webhook configuration, right? Here as a webhook you will define a some name, and what is this webhook is saying, validating whenever you create and update deployments or replicas, right, in the apps v1, apps v2, those are the namespace, you can apply the validation. So here basically another validation controller, basically with the two different which is a little bit extended compared to this example. Here what I am doing is, whenever you are trying to create, this is a create operation on any namespace resource with the key is environment, production or staging. That's what this webhook is doing. So here match expression means it should match. If doesn't match, it will fail. So what is our final goal is, here we wanted to validate validate and just fail the request if somebody do the kubectl apply if some deployment, right? So this is just like as I said in the governance, right, you can enforce. So this is just an example. If you wanted to explore more, then Kubernetes documentation is given a very good, where you can specify object selector, namespace selector. There are a lot many webhook configurations you can do, right? But this is an example point of view. This is the word that you can enforce the parts, labels, something, anything, right? Then another way where you can define this, say you are saying I want to apply an admission configuration for mutating and validating. How do I do in a production especially, right? So first create a kubeconfig file, second is an admission configuration file and map it to it. What does it mean? And third one is create a webhook that will request and respond. So let me explain. Say I wanted to create one mutating webhook and I wanted to create one validating webhook, right? And those validating webhook configuration here I will create, and those configurations where I will specify in one kubeconfig file. This kubeconfig file and the default kubeconfig file are the different. Say here kubectl get context, right? So this will give you the context of the context, right? So basically this is not a get hyphen contexts, right? So this will give me the right. So basically here this kube configuration file will have all the details specific to this webhook configurations. So how it will look is, it is a kind of config where you will specify where your webhooks are exist. My mutating web admission controller is exist in this particular namespace. So I have to specify the fully qualified name. is another validating is in this particular namespace, this particular DNS, and whereas this particular service is require this client certificate, this client key, whereas this one, this name require a username password, this one require a token, so that you can specify the each individual configurations and map it to this particular admission configuration, right? So now the step one, you understood what is this config file, which are the config file is nothing but it's are the configurations specific to the web hooks. Web hooks means could be anything, validating or mutating, right? And the second one is how do you specify here, right? Admission control configuration file, which is in the API server level. So here the next step. So here third is create a configure webhook request and response. So what is this request and response? Let me show you. So basically, whenever you create this mutating and validating webhooks along with this one, right? And I wanted to control whenever raising a request, what should I do? And during the response, what should I do? That will be defined under admission review. Maybe you may confuse here. What is this admission review? The new thing is came into the picture. So here, admission review is basically, this is the before API call triggers to the HCD, the admission review will kicks in, and this admission review will check apart from these two, is there any request or response is defined with this validate. So I have a mutating and validating stuff, but here what should I do with the request and response, right? Say if you look at my previous slide, right here, if you look at this previous slide, right, look at here, right here, admission review request, admission review response with the modification. So who is doing the modification here? Mutating webhook is doing, but when? During the request or response? During the request or response. That's what I mean. So here the last slide is this guy, right? So admission request, yeah. So here if you look at this admission review, here this is admission review. Look at here, API kind is admission review. So now admission review will take care of the when, during the request. So here in the request you see the UID, kind, resource, sub resource, request kind, and request resource, request sub resource, my deployment, my namespace, what operation. So these are the all things it will be specified under the request. So and response, this is the, so this, if you look at this, this is in the JSON format. So I will explain what is this, why it's in the JSON format. In the API version kind response, here I am saying if it is this allowed equal to false, allowed equal to false means there is a validation. If you look at the another example, I want to respond with the 403. You cannot do this because it's a Tuesday and your name starts with the A. Some logic is applied to throw the 403, and you can ask where I can accommodate this. This has to be accommodated in your code. This has to be accommodated in your code. Means if you define a validating and mutating webhook, it is not enough. Whenever you wanted to validate, whenever you wanted to read the response and read the request, and during the response you wanted to do some operations, so this has to be included in your code. Any Python, Golang, or any code you develop for the container, then basically you need to make a request accordingly in this format as a documentation suggests, right? If you look at this documentation, it has a very good documentation is explaining about the webhook request response. So basically here and you need to do it in your code. so that it will work accordingly. So you just refer this documentation for the more details, and that's it for the this session. And I hope you understand this session, and I hope it will be helpful, and let me know in your comments about this feedback. Thank you.